I wanted to tell you a little bit about what this program is all about. And because I've had so many people reach out to say, what is this? Are you going to be making barekas? Are you going to be sending people challah? What is a taste of Shabbat, from our Sephardic home to yours, and trying to understand what it is. And this really came from a committee meeting when we were trying to make plans to how to get back physically to the synagogue, but also to make plans for how we can better connect with each other now that we're not getting together physically. So beyond just tefillah and classes, how we could connect. And we had some meetings and we had some discussions. And I said, I'm not really sure how this is going to play out, but let's throw it out there. Let's have a couple of sessions and let's see how it is. And we came up with this idea of, come to our Shabbat home, come to our Sephardic home and experience experience Shabbat with us. Because as you know, the Rabbis and I just, we love Hachnasat Orchim, we love having people over. Now, what that is and is going to be different for different people. So for example, I could imagine if Terry was hosting this, Terry would do a challah masterclass. And if Rabbi Varon was doing this, he would share some pizmonim. And if Alan Genie were doing this, they would do different things. But, Ladino, it would be Genie, I'm sure, would be making some, delicious things in the kitchen. And the Rabbis and I were thinking, what are we going to do? And
I'm not doing a Sephardic cooking demo. That was the first thing I said.
And I thought, ooh, what do we like to do? We said, you know what? We like talking about Shabbat and understanding Shabbat. So I said, let's do more of that. So here's what we came up with.
All right. So I'm going to start just with, well, first of all, welcome. And this week's Torah parasha, like where better to start than the Torah? This week is called Behalotecha, which is kind of a mouthful, but what does it mean? What is Behalotecha? So it is the word of what Hashem tells Moshe to tell Aharon to do to light the menorah in the Mishkan. Okay, great, but we know the word to light because we light Shabbat candles, and when we light Shabbat candles, the word is lehadlik ner, not the word bahalotecha, right? So what is the word bahalotecha? Well, when you get the extra parts off and you break it down to the shoresh, it is the word aliyah, to elevate. The same word we use to be called up to the Torah. The same word we use to talk about moving to Israel, to elevate. And there's not really a better word to sum up what happens when we light Shabbat candles. The word lahadlik, it's to kindle. Sure, we strike a match, we light the candle. But the aliyah, the lifting, the elevating that happens from lighting Shabbat candles, it's really beyond words. Because the Shabbat candles, they are the piece that represents Shalom Bayit, that represents peace in the home. We have 2 candles lit to make sure that everybody is feeling safe and secure, that you can see well enough, and that definitely helped in antiquity. But today it's to symbolize peace. It's to show that we are illuminating, that we are elevating, and that we are connecting with everyone around us. And sometimes that's just us. Sometimes it's one person and finding their shalom within themselves. And sometimes it's with a couple, a family, all of the guests. And the elevating and the lifting of others starts with the lighting of Shabbat candles. It's kind of cool that when does Shabbat start? And we'll ask like, oh, what time is candle lighting? Because that's when Shabbat starts. And in winter, the minute Shabbat starts is the minute you light candles. But in the summer, there's early lighting. You can light from this time until this time. And it could be like an hour and a half. But the moment that Shabbat candles are lit and the Baracha is said, no matter when in that whole time span it is, Shabbat has begun by saying those words. By lighting the candles and making the Baracha, you elevate the entire world around you to the place of Shabbat. So that's what I wanted to start with.
Chazaka u'burucha. You know what I'm going to do? I'm going to unmute everyone and let's have a conversation about that. So I'm unmuting you. Feel free to, let's discuss this concept of raising things up in our home, that when we light those candles, we're raising up this concept of shalom bayit, of peace in the home. We're elevating ourselves as individuals, as family units. How do we feel about that? Don't be shy. Anyone want to share something on that? That concept of lighting up, or feeling part of it? Well, if that's not something you're thinking about, I want to share a little bit about
You're doing it. Excellent, excellent. Let me just jump in real quick. First of all, Chazaku Sharona, very nice.
Thank you.
Very nice words. Rabbi, I didn't mean to interrupt you. But I think there was silence because who would argue with elevating such concepts? You know, and the Hadlak for Shabbat is an instant. It's probably there was silence because who can argue with that? Not that silence would necessarily mean an argument, but there's probably a good accord here.
Absolutely, absolutely.
I didn't mean to interrupt. Please, b'chavod.
I have something there. The candles that we're lighting before Shabbat are individual candles, 2, 3, 4, however, you know, whatever the custom is, however you do. It's just occurring to me. I'm not sure if maybe I'm jumping too soon till Havdalah, but the candles we light for Havdalah are the wicks are coming together. So carrying your idea forward about the contemplation and the peace that the individual Shabbat candles represent, by the end of Shabbat, we've come together. We're one. All the wicks are coming together. Maybe.
Beautiful. As when I was a child and I first heard that, we had these Shabbat candles every week, and in our house there was just 2. In my current home we have more, and our Havdalah candle always was 3. And I took it to understand that it was, you know, you and someone else. And by the end of Shabbat, it was you, someone else, and the Shekhinah, that it was Hashem wrapped up with all of you together. And that's what the Shabbat experience did, was bring everyone together.
Yeah.
Nice.
Rabbi Hassan, I have to commend you. When there was silence after your wife spoke and people weren't calling in, so to speak, I felt like we were on a talk radio show, and the host, and you did very well, was prepared with, what do you do if nobody calls in? And you very professionally went to and smooth transition to another, about to go to another question. So, touche.
Cut to a commercial.
I have a question.
Let's cut to a commercial. Absolutely.
Well done.
I have a question.
Brought to you by Rick Azaras.
Ralph,
Yosef had your hand up. Is that right?
I do, yeah.
Oh,
One
Esther,
thing-
go for it. Yeah.
Oh, sorry. One thing that occurred to me when you were talking about the change, the immediate change when you light candles and you're lifted, was as a new mother, when you would have to, in those days, there weren't devices other than the television or a record player or vinyl, but your children knew when you were lighting those candles, no question, it elevated and it changed the essence of your home. Your Shabbat Shalom was as immediate as lighting those candles. That's what I remember from Chicago. Yeah.
yeah, Ralph.
My question is, why 2 candles?
You want to take that one?
Yeah, I'll take that one. Happy to take that one. So we have 2 candles because of when there were 2 versions of the 10 Commandments. There's one in Parashat Yitro, one in Parashat Vayetchanan, and there are slight variances of the text. And one of the most famous ones is that in one it says Zachor, and in one it says Shamor. As we say in the Chadodi, Shamor v'Zachor b'dibur echad. And this concept of saying those 2 words in one is this concept here further. So when we light the 2 candles, we're adding the Zachor and the Shamor. The Zachor is the positive elements of Shabbat, the positive mitzvot, and the shamor is the negative mitzvot of Shabbat. Don't do this, don't do that. So we have zachor and shamor are the two elements of Shabbat, the things which we do to elevate Shabbat and the things which we do to maintain Shabbat.
Excuse me for interrupting, but maybe you should translate Zachor v'Shamor.
Yes, thank you, Wendy. Zachor meaning to remember, and shamor meaning to guard. Okay, so we remember Shabbat. How do I remember Shabbat? I remember by doing acts of remembrance, such as making Kiddush, or making Havdalah, or making Hamotzi. Those are things which we're doing, which are acts of remembrance. Whereas things which are guarding, I need to guard the Shabbat.
It's exactly what you were saying of turning off the record player and the television. That's how we're guarding the Shabbat.
By preparing it. Absolutely.
Good question.
All right, so I'm going to mute everyone again, and I'm going to tell you. Oh, it is? Yosef, go for it.
Yeah, I was muted, I guess. I was just going to say, I guess when I think of the candles and the beauty of the Shalom Bait, right? I guess I think of sunset and sunrise at the same time. Like visually, you have this something visually appealing and kind of drawing you in that reminds you of Hashem and the beauty of life, right? As you would kind of be watching sunrise or sunset, right? It's like that time that you realize like, wow, like this is like, life is great. The world is great, right? And I guess I relate those two connected somehow. At least myself, I connect those two. So just wanted to add that.
That's a beautiful idea. I love that. I knew, Yosef, you would share something visually pleasing. Definitely talks to your personality and your many talents.
Do guys like candles?
If there's some sounds.
So in Jewish law, both men and women can light Shabbat candles. But in the law code, the Shulchan Aruch, Rav Yosef Karo says that this is something which women do. But obviously, if there are no women present in the family, then it's a mitzvah for the men.
And what you're about to do next, the opposite is true.
Correct. And just like this with Kiddush. Kiddush is both men and women can make Kiddush, but normally it's for the man of the house. But if there is no men present, then it falls on the women as well.
Rabbi and Sharona?
Yes.
Hi, Larry.
Hey, how you doing?
Good, welcome.
I was one of the first ones to sign on, but then I came in a little bit late, but the part I heard is about the aliyah and going up. Does the flame have something to do with that, like a neshama of the flame itself on the candle?
That's a beautiful suggestion.
It does now.
It does now.
Yeah, it does now. I don't know.
The aliyah spurred my interest, that's all.
I thought when you were going to say Aliyah, you were going to share, you wanted to sell some mitzvot.
Yeah.
Next time.
Yes.
Next time.
We want to fill the bucket again.
Sorry?
We want to fill the bucket with the revenue from the mitzvot.
Absolutely.
What about the beracha for the challah? Can both men and women do it?
Oh, yeah.
The man is not available.
Yeah, so again, generally it's normally the man, but again, it's something which both men and women can do. And I think Hamotzi is going to be something we may talk about in another session, probably next time, or whoever else is presenting that time. So I'm going to mute everyone, and I'm going to tell you a little bit about Kiddush. Okay.
I just want to say one thing before we move on, because we're saying it's traditionally done by one or the other. What's most important is that these berachot are said and that the Shabbat is happening. So who's saying it is really secondary to that it's happening, because that's what's so important and so special.
Yeah, absolutely. So here is my Kiddush cup, and the Rabisa was asking me, do you have a special story about a Kiddush cup? And we were looking all our Kiddush cups, and we got this one at our wedding, or we got this one as a family gift, or this one for being the rabbi of a synagogue in Australia, or this one was, I don't know. But some people have many great stories about their Kiddush cups, which passed down many generations. The Rabisa was hoping that this Kiddush cup was my great-great-grandfather's, but
your brother got that one.
my brother got that one. He's the oldest. But what I wanted to talk about with Kiddush is, what are we doing here? So the Talmud talks about, if you have grapes, there's a blessing, there's a beracha that we make, and that blessing on grapes is borei pri ha'etz. But if I then take those same grapes and crush them and make them into wine, it's elevated to borei pri hagefen, for the blesses that is the fruit of the vine. But Kiddush is so much more than that. I could have a glass of wine Sunday night, Monday night, Tuesday night, Wednesday night, Thursday night, Motzei Shabbat, I just say borei pri hagefen. But on Friday night, I get to say Kiddush. And Kiddush, which means sanctification, or making holy, sanctifying Shabbat, designating it as a special day, we need to understand, what are these words that we sing, that we chant on Friday night before our meal? What are we doing? What is the real essence of Kiddush? And that's what I wanted to share with you, because to me, there's two main lessons coming from Kiddush. One is, and I'm going to explain these terms, Zecher leMaaseh Bereshit. One is a remembrance to the fact that God created the world in 6 days and rested on the seventh. And one is Zecher L'Tziat Mitzrayim, a remembrance that God took us out of Egypt. So the first one is very straightforward. That makes sense. Shabbat is the seventh day. God created the world for 6 days. And we are recalling that God rested on the seventh day. That's my Kiddush, and that's why I understand the first paragraph. But the main crux of the Kiddush is actually the second beracha. And the second beracha focuses on this idea that the whole purpose of creation was that there would be a nation who would be making Kiddush every Friday night. And what type of nation would be making Kiddush every Friday night? It would be the chosen nation, God's chosen nation, that God took them out from Egypt, not in order to do whatever they wanted, but in order that they would serve him through mitzvot. And what is the primary mitzvah that we think of? It is Techila L'Mikra'ei Kodesh, the beginning or the first of the holidays, like we have in Parashat Emor. It's the first of the holidays. It's Shabbat, that we have a choice. Yes, God created the world in 6 days and rested on the seventh. Very nice. But what we do every Shabbat is we're saying, we're just like Hashem. We're going to walk in his ways. Halachta b'drachav, we're going to go in his ways. And just as he rests on the seventh day, we're going to rest on the seventh day. Just as he delighted in Shabbat, we're going to delight in Shabbat. So it's not just something which happened way back when in the past. It's not a commemoration of the creation of the world. It's not even just a commemoration that we went out of Egypt, which is Pesach. Rather, it's a celebration that each and every week, we're partners with Hashem. That just as he rests every 7 days, we rest every 7 days. Just as God elevates us with these beautiful mitzvot of lighting the candles, of making Kiddush, we make them, we do them, we feel connected to Hashem through them. And this is why this was so important to the Rabisa and I, when it came to what should we talk about? What should we show? What should we demonstrate? These were the ideas. It's these candles. It's the Kiddush. That's Shabbat for us. And I think one of the universal truths of COVID-19 is we haven't been in synagogue, but every Shabbat we've still been able to light the candles. We're still able to make Kiddush. We're still able to partner with God and feel that deep connection to Shabbat, to Him, to our peoplehood, and to our elevated selves, of being our best selves. And how are we being our best selves? By doing the commandments and by working on ourselves to be the best Jews and the best human beings that we can be. And now I'm going to open it up, and I'm sure on this occasion there's more to talk about or to disagree about or to agree about with consensus about those concepts. But I want to throw it out there for you to discuss.
While they start to think about what they're going to say, because now I see there's a lag time. When I was talking about like what heirlooms, you know, we have and why don't we have a historic Kiddush cup. So just now I thought about my grandfather of blessed memory and being in his house. And my grandparents lived in Little Rock, Arkansas, and my grandfather was born in Little Rock, Arkansas. So if you want to talk about like thriving Jewish metropolises, Little Rock is not one of them. And I went to their house, you know, regularly and for Chagim and for Shabbat. And the siddur that my grandfather used Friday, it was a regular siddur, it was a small siddur, and there was a hole in the siddur in the shape of his thumb on the page of Kiddush. From every week holding it in the same way, in the same place, that there was a hole worn through that page and the few pages after that, that my grandmother taped so that the siddur wouldn't fall apart. But the way he clutched that siddur and the imprint that he made on the siddur and the imprint that the siddur made on him on the page of Kiddush was so deep and so real to me. I was fascinated by a child seeing it, but it really affected my neshama. Now they can talk.
Now they can talk if they're not overwhelmed.
So I was impressed when you talked about family heirloom Kiddush cups. And my mother's father was born during Pesach. I mean, he didn't know exactly his birthday, but he knew his birthday was during Pesach. And he was given a becher, a Kiddush cup, when he was born. And it's in my Pesach things. And I look forward every year to taking it out for Pesach. And it's always given to the youngest boy at the table. So usually now one of my grandsons gets it, but yeah. So special things. Kiddush brings special memories.
That's beautiful. Thank you for sharing that, Cindy.
Maybe at a future program like this, we can all bring the meaningful heirloom for our Shabbat, if it's a Kiddush cup or whatever, colic cup or whatever it is, sort of share part of that personal connection that we have.
Mm-hmm.
The tradition I started was when my son and my daughter got married, I got him a Kiddush cup. And when my granddaughter got married, I got her a Kiddush cup. So that it would be from their marriage ceremony and something that they use and hopefully pass on to their descendants.
That's a wonderful connection. That's
beautiful.
Yeah.
You know, interesting to point out.
Hi. Eugene, you're muted.
No, it's funny. No, that's not showing you, did
So we got one too, that this one was given to us by my uncle in Israel for our wedding.
For our wedding.
Right, so
Yeah.
this came from Eretz Israel and 50 something years ago.
Cool.
So I have a question.
Please.
In some custom, I remember my family, when it came time in the middle of saying Kiddush, when you say the Borei Pri Geffen, we added 3 drops of water.
Yeah, that's a beautiful custom. That custom is throughout the Mediterranean. Jack, your family from Rhodes-Lee or from, or are they Turkinos?
Turkino.
Turkinos.
Both sides.
So I can tell you that the minhag in Gibraltar and I know the minhag of Rodas Lee and others as well, is right before Borei Pri Gefen, we add 3 drops of water. Why? Because in the time of the Talmud, the wine was so strong, it needed to be diluted. And therefore, as a remembering of that, we still add 3 drops to it. Another idea given is that the wine represents midat hadin, the attribute of strict justice, whereas water, mayim, is the attribute of rachamim, of God's mercy. So we don't want to have even wine, which we like, or grape juice, because it represents judgment. We also want to have a little sprinkling of mercy in there. So that's the custom. But I know that there are Turkinos who do it as well. I can see Al is looking at me like we do that as well. But I think primarily it's more of a Rodas Lee and than it is a Turk thing. But I know some of the Sharchons, because they are from
other place.
They do it as well, right?
Jack Bravani used to do it.
Right.
Yeah, I do it.
Jack and Jack Haleva's roots are
connected. Yeah.
First cousin.
Rabbi,
go ahead, Yosef. Go ahead.
Oh, I was going to just ask why 3 drops?
Whatever you like, I don't know.
Well, listen, when we were little in Gibraltar, it was my job to add the 3 drops of water into the Kiddush cup. Sometimes I would forget, and my father was like, come. And my father got that minhag, I guess, from Gibraltar, as Rabbi Hassan is saying. And yeah, it was always 3 drops.
Yeah, right at the time
Let's
when
go.
you say
Let's call it Rabbi Second Yaakov. I mean, I can't tell you why, but we used to do this minhag when we were in Australia, and somehow we've dropped the minhag of adding the drops. Maybe because we're with the rabbi of SPH, not the rabbi of Ezra B'Sereth. But somehow it's dropped out of our minhag. But every occasionally when we have family over, they're like, "Why don't you do that anymore?"
Well, my family was
taking a separate cup and pouring it. I'm assuming that's your drops. You're just taking a separate cup of water and pouring, or a bottle or something, and just drop.
Exactly right. It'll be a great thing for your cheved to do.
Sweet. All right.
You
and it happens.
She adds it in, and everyone's good. Yeah.
It happens when you say Savri Maranan and L'chaim.
Exactly right.
You said right after that?
Sorry?
Right after Savri Maranan L'chaim, and then you...
When do you do it? At that moment, correct. Yeah.
Gotcha.
Ma'am Lois talks about it. I don't have Ma'am Lois here, but he mentions the drops in that process, but I don't remember the reason for the 3.
So I've always asked, why is it that we use wine when wine is particularly such a dangerous drink? People could get drunk. Families have been destroyed because of alcoholism. Why would we use wine?
So I would say that, like most things, that if you have them in small amounts, you can use them to elevate. And anything which you have an overdose of, you have too much of, it can be dangerous. So I think that Hashem is saying, you know what? You can use wine to get drunk. You can use wine to debase yourself. But you can also use wine to make Kiddush and make Havdalah. A small amount goes a long way. My personal preference is I generally use grape juice. I only use wine on Pesach. But sometimes actually, we sometimes use sweet white wine because the Rabisa likes it. But I think the idea is that there's one way to pull back, which is anything in this world which can be a problem, let's not do it, is one approach. But the main approach is, you know what? I can have this in a small amount, and I can elevate it, as the Ravisa was talking about with candles. I can make it positive. And so I think that's the message of Judaism is I can take something from this world, like wine, I can get drunk, or I can take it and make Kiddush. I can take olives, I can make them olive oil for my candles, you know? And it's all that nature of things, of how we can take foods, take fruits, take things, and elevate them to a higher purpose, that we do mitzvot with them, so we do commandments with them. That is the highest elevation.
There's a Kabbalistic teaching that the Eitz Hadat Tovara, the tree in the Garden of Eden, was actually a great tree, and that Adam and Eve, Adam and Chava, they were meant to take the fruit, they were meant to touch it and squeeze it and make Kiddush, and instead they took it before Shabbat on the 6th day, and as you know how the story goes, they botched the whole thing. But what they were supposed to do was make the first Kiddush with Hashem. And to remember that is why Kiddush is the great juice.
The notion of any occasion with wine is very deeply ingrained. It's not, I think it goes even further than what the Rabbi and Ravisa have been saying, that it's dafka, wine. And wine is held in very high regard as providing nutritional value and providing value to the soul. And so that, you know, when you have the beracha, you look at the hierarchy of berachot, right? That just one quick second. That every other food item that human being touches moves down a bit. The beracha takes the highest status when it comes off the ground, off of the tree, except for two things. One of them is grain products. It goes to Adamata Mezonot, to Hamotzi, and Hamotzi is the pinnacle of what happens with that bread. That bread has the highest beracha because it's held in highest regard. And the other one is wine. It's not it's what happens when you make apple juice. You got shakol. It's come all the way down the whale. But borei pri hagefen, gefen, we could say, but borei pri hagefen on the grapes, let alone the juice, maybe even on yapraks. I don't know. But the elevation, the proper status, the intended goal for that item that's growing and it's a food product is wine. And we say borei pri hagefen because it's achieved a certain elevation and a status there. So I think it's everything that you're saying, but I think it's even more than that. There's something there.
Well, think about all the other times that we drink wine, like at a Brit Milah, at
holy,
Havdalah, all the other times, and I suppose we're trying to elevate at those times as well.
Yes, absolutely.
Rabbi, I wanted to make one important addition on the idea of the minhag for putting the 3 drops. It's always the job of the eldest child, and the thought behind it is that gets them involved in the Kiddush process. It gives them a part.
Absolutely. We are the as Faradim, we're always trying to get the kids involved, always trying to do experiential education. Absolutely. And there's no better way than giving them roles to do it. All right, so we're going to pause you one more time, and the Ravisa is going to tell you some more.
Well, when the flyers went out and we said that this is going to involve food, and from your Sephardic home, I was a little bit stuck because although I make food and I make a lot of food, and I think I make some pretty good food, in no way does my food represent the Sephardic heritage of Seattle, of Turkey, of Rodez. It's Israeli if it's anything. But I want to talk about my thoughts behind menu planning for Shabbat. And it's not the amazing Israeli cookbooks that are out there, although there are countless. There are countless fantastic cookbooks. But when I think about how I plan my menu, instead of looking at any of the cookbooks in the kitchen, I look at the Gemara, the Talmud in Beitzah, and it recounts the story, or recounts how Hillel and Shammai approached shopping for food for Shabbat. And it's something that really resonates with me. So if you're not familiar with Hillel and Shammai, they were like the original, I don't know, the debaters. Like they had their opinion, I have my opinion, we'll talk about it, I'm still right, I'm still right. And in this case, they're both right. So Shammai's opinion on getting ready for Shabbat and menu planning is that starting from Sunday, like as soon as Shabbat is out, whatever you see that's the nicest, that's for Shabbat. I'm gonna get that, I'm gonna save it for Shabbat. So we buy the first thing, whoa, that was beautiful, that's for Shabbat. But then on Monday, something even nicer. All right, well, I'll eat the food that was before for Shabbat, and now this one will be for Shabbat. And every day, everything that he purchased was Lichvod Shabbat, although he's gonna eat yesterday's food that was initially for Shabbat today. And that's Shammai's approach. And Hillel's approach was, every day, I love and value Hashem, and the food that he gives me that day, that is the food for Shabbat. And they're both right. So that is the method behind my menu planning too, of I buy what is beautiful for Shabbat, and maybe I'll plan and say, this is my menu, this is what's gonna be. Then on Thursday, I'm in the store, and there's these beautiful eggplants. Whoa, I didn't know this was gonna be in the shop. There's no way of knowing what's gonna be fresh and what's gonna be available. Certainly in Seattle, there's no telling what meat may or may not be available in the supermarket. And that is what Hashem has given me to celebrate Shabbat with. Whatever is there, how can I harness that to elevate my Shabbat? Because maybe it's day by day that I'm checking and saying this is for Shabbat, and maybe it's just before Shabbat. But knowing that the food that's available for me is there to elevate me and my family and our guests to make brachot and enjoy, I so value seeing that all of the food always is from Hashem, but really that food that's special for Shabbat, Hashem is giving that to us every day and just before Shabbat.
That's beautiful.
Thanks. So no more complaining about the lack of menu planning.
What could I tell you? You're just like Hillel, I'm more like Shammai. And Halacha is always like Hillel, so I guess she wins. I wanted to finish off with a song, and I was thinking, what have we been talking about? There's no other day like Shabbat. Yom HaShabbat ein kamohu. But then I thought to myself, I'm not the best singer for that, so I'm going to sing you a different song. Virtually all our Zemirot on Shabbat, they talk to us about the splendor and beauty of Shabbat, that it being the best of the days, the day that God rested after creating. Some of them have all of the Lamed Tet Melachot, the 39 prohibited labors. Some go into how you're meant to talk and behave, but they're all focusing primarily on Shabbat. So I had a choice of lots and lots, and I was thinking about Ashir La'el. It's one of my favorite ones, and I thought if you'd like to sing while you're muted, you can sing with me as I sing Ashir La'el, which is I sing to God, Asher Shabbat, that he rested mimelachto, from his work beyom Shabbat, on Shabbat day. That's everything we've been talking about here. And it's talking about mechubad hu mikol yamim. It's more honorable than all the other days. Kivo Shabbat so olamim. It's everything going on here about God, the rock, resting as he finished forming the worlds. That's the essence of Shabbat. And this is what I wanted to share, that whether it's the lighting of the candles, it's making Kiddush, it's singing the Zemirot, or it's talking around the table, it's all about elevating the mundane and making it holy. Taking the weekday and making Shabbat, taking a special day and celebrating it. So I'm going to sing just a couple of stanzas of Ashir Lakel. And again, while you're muted, please feel free to join in. If you have,
Rabbi?
Yeah.
Do you have a page number?
Yes, if you have a Siddur in front of you, it's 195. But I'm going to sing it as a solo because it's not the easiest to sing as a group. Ashir Lael Asher Shavat Mimelachto Beyom Shabbat Netano Le'am Kevavat Ayin Tamid Yinserenu Mechobadhu Mikol Yamim Kiva Shavat Tzor Olamim Yanuach Bo Levagumim Sameach Yesamechenu Yanuach Bo Levagumim Sameach Yesamechenu Ashir Lael Asher Shavat Mimelachto Biyom Shabbat Netano Le'am Kevavat Ayin Tamid Yinserenu Hael Asher Bachar Banu Shabbat Kodsho Inchilanu Min Hamim Hivdilanu Leyolanu Le'Elohimu Min Hamim Hivdilanu Leyolanu Le'Elohimu Ashir Lael Asher Shavat Mimelachto B'Yom Shabbat Netano Le'am Kevavat Ayin Tamid Yinserenu Hazak Yishlach Meshichenu V'yashiv et Shevitenu V'yaz Nishbot Shabbatenu Olam Shekulo Shabbat Hu V'yaz Nishbot Shabbatenu Olam Shekulo Shabbat Hu Ashir Lael Asher Shavat Mimelachto B'Yom Shabbat Netano Le'am Kevavat Ayin Tamid Yinserenu.
Text. There you go.
If that doesn't get you in the mood for Shabbat, nothing will.
Yes, Rabbi, you sang that the long-standing SBH tradition of every other paragraph.
I did.
That came from Uncle Jack Azos, who hand wrote this. We never saw it in the book. I don't know how many of you around remember. We never saw it in the book. He passed out a mimeograph sheet where he had paragraph, every other paragraph was there. Then I have to tell you that one of the consequences of being home for Shabbat is that Jeannie and I sing all the verses. Now we're breaking with tradition.
Anyway, I hope that everyone enjoyed this taste of Shabbat from our home to yours. And we plan to do this every Thursday evening. So that's the plan. If you have ideas about it and you want to drop me a line or drop the Rabisa, you can also reach out to Al or Wendy or Sharon. Please just let us know what you're thinking about, because we'd love to make this as interactive as possible, as fun as possible, as learning as possible. And as I said, this was just one way of doing this, which was the way the Rabisa and I liked it. I think we might have some things coming up as well.
I will turn everything off.
Gallery view, if you can see something.
No, I want to get rid of these.
All right. So I'm going to say Shabbat Shalom, everyone. If you want to come to Mincha is in half an hour at 8:50 on Zoom. And tomorrow night, we've got Kabbalat Shabbat on Zoom with Rabbi Varen's going to be leading, and also in the tent.
What time?
There we go. So Shabbat Shalom, everyone.
What time?
Rabbi, Rabbi Hassan.